The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on Sports.
We welcome you to hour number 2 live right here on this Monday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. 2 more hours to go to continue our opening weekend recap around the 2025 Men's NCAA Tournament. A few days off from the big dance, at least on the men's side. Still rounding out the round of 32 in the women's big dance on this Monday evening as well. But a few days off until we get to the second weekend and the Sweet 16. DRS, a lot to get caught up on in this second hour and still up until 11 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, it feels like we got to get caught up from this weekend's action, which dates all the way back to Thursday, and then sort of hit that reset button as we get ready for Thursday and Friday for the Sweet 16 to get started. And understand this, too. Major League Baseball, Thursday afternoon also going to get the starts. They're going to get afternoon baseball, and for the majority on Thursday, then flip it over to a Sweet 16. It's a great week here to get started. It's like the unofficial, official start to spring for me once we see Major League Baseball, which then plays into the Final Four, then into the final, and then into the Masters right after that. So it's a great couple weeks coming up. Just need the trees to bloom and March to get out of here with all this wind in the Northeast, man. Then we'll calm down and we'll be able to relax.
Completely agree, DRS. We're seeing a lot of rain this week. April showers or almost April showers. Bring May flowers. Maybe that's what we're saying. 2 weeks from this exact day on a Monday night inside the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, we will cut down the nets and crown a national champ. In the 16 teams, still dancing into the second weekend, we break down here. As we shared right before the end of our opening hour, Michigan State playing a Michigan State basketball game and moving past New Mexico in the round of 32 to Sweet 16, number 16 under Tom Izzo. 71-63, the Spartans do cover as a 6.5-point pre-game favorite. And DRS, as you shared, such an MSU game last night. This is sporty to a T in this 2024-25 season. 9 guys in the fold, all 9 players scoring at least 4 points. The bench outscoring the Lobos 36 12-7. That is Michigan State basketball. Their mantra all season has been strength in numbers. And you need those numbers when maybe your best player now in Jace Richardson only has one field goal in the entirety of the game, and it comes in the closing minutes. A clutch bucket for Richardson, but still just one field goal. And yet Michigan State wins, and they cover 71-63 as a 6.5-point favorite.
Yeah, and you also saw down the stretch a little bit of foul trouble getting the New Mexico Lobos in trouble. Nelly Jr. Joseph having a great tournament and a great basketball game ends up actually fouling out a little bit later after a play that he had a putback dunk, and then the ball came in so quick he turned around and just got a foul and knocked himself right out of there. So tough scene there all the way through, but understand this. This is Michigan State, grimy basketball team, holding New Mexico to 63 total points, down at the break here, not panicking, making those plays late in the game. And we talk about this so much. Like Maryland has the Crab Five, great starting lineup. They're going to play a lot of minutes. Yeah. When you get bench performances where if your starters aren't working out, you can just get guys to step up in the moment that are used to doing that. That's what you saw from Michigan State yesterday. Because you take a look at Frankie Fiddler, only 10 points, but a couple clutch baskets in the second half. Trey Holloman, 14 points, which included 5 of 13 from the field. Getting it from all parts there for Michigan State. That is a key to their victory. It might not be pretty to watch. You look at their statistics. Oh, they really don't eat from the three-point line. They're not great inside the arc. Do they really get to the free throw line? But they end up winning games, 29-6 on the season. This is a good basketball team. It's fun to watch. They'll frustrate their next opponent, whoever it's going to be.
Under 148.5 for Tom Izzo and his Spartans. Again, Sweet 16, number 16 for Izzo and his 27 trips to the NCAA Tournament. Exactly a year ago, Tom Izzo said, after Michigan State was ousted by UNC in the round of 32, I am going to get back to a deeper run in this tournament, or I am going to die trying. Well, he is at least on to the second weekend once again for Michigan State. Who will that opponent be as they get ready to head to Atlanta in the round of 16? A red-hot Ole Miss team that had to hold off UNC on Friday, a dramatic charge from Carolina in the second half. But that continued things over for Chris Beard and the Running Rebs into the round of 32, taking on an injured and shorthanded Iowa State team. When would it catch up with the Cyclones? I think it did last night. Ole Miss having a great night from deep, 11 of 19, nearly 58% as a team, winning 91-78. The Running Rebs were a pregame 5.5-point underdog. They went outright. They head to the Sweet 16 under Chris Beard.
Yeah, a little SEC depth right there, right? And also feels like Ole Miss was probably one of those teams that got the most disrespect coming into the tournament as a 6 seed because, it's North Carolina. Stinks for them. They're going to play a team that, snuck in here and now is angry with a chip on the shoulder. And they did hang on as I watched that live before we hit the show set there on Friday night. A couple of interesting fouls laid, a couple of things that went Ole Miss's way just to try to hang on, which I guess was Carolina's calling card, get down by a lot of points and try to make an unbelievable surge, which they couldn't. But credit Ole Miss. Game number 2 against Iowa State, who even though, yes, they were banged up a little bit, even see Lipsy in that game, played 32 minutes but only scored 7 points and was insignificant. This game was basically a rout in the first half alone. 91 points against a very good defensive team in Iowa State. Boy, Ole Miss playing their best basketball of the season and a little bit under the radar right now, but under the radar no more. Into the Sweet 16, away they go.
3.5-point dog against Michigan State, but the betting market's trying to find its way to the Running Rebs. These will be the matchups that we have in the South region on Friday night. Both teams from the land of 1,000 lakes will be there in Atlanta come this upcoming weekend. That includes Michigan as well. Big victory, DRS, for the Wolverines on Saturday night. Back and forth as we anticipated against Texas A&M. Michigan pulls away late. Something about the Wolverines in a tight basketball game, but they do find their footing. This one not decided by 4 points or fewer. 12. Michigan wins outright as a 2.5-point underdog, 91-79. They had every answer to the bigs for A&M, and Donnie, the best game of his career in the maize and blue for the Ohio State transfer in Roddy Gale. 26 points off the bench. Defensive stop after defensive stop. Buried 4 threes for Dusty May and company. Dusty May's first year in Ann Arbor. Last year, an 8-24 team under Juwan Howard. Michigan now has 27 wins, won the Big Ten tournament title, and has reached the Sweet 16. This Dusty May guy can coach basketball, that is for sure.
You can. I just see a guy coming off the bench who didn't get any minutes yesterday. Fat Brooks. What a tremendous name here for Michigan. Maybe one of those guys we give a household name. But having said that, Texas A&M really melted in the second half. They just did. They look like, okay, they got their feet under them. They'll be just fine. And then credit Michigan for taking it away, and also 25 fouls for the Texas A&M Aggies. The footprint for A&M is not all that efficient on offense, don't do a lot of things really well, and that caught up to them here. And also Michigan, 56 points in the second half to pull away, playing their best basketball at the right time. And as you said, so many other victories in the regular season were close games down the stretch, which is normally what you play once you get into postseason basketball. They were good enough to win yesterday, and certainly over the weekend, and at the same time, watch out for Michigan. Like getting that hype train, like that avalanche, and winning the Big Ten Conference Tournament, and now finding themselves in the Sweet 16. It's great stuff.
March is about momentum. Michigan has won 5 consecutive games, including that Big Ten tourney title. 4 of those 5 outright as an underdog. DRS, to your point about A&M, they're the best offensive rebounding team in the country, but against 2 big 7-footers, Michigan had a 9-rebound edge in that game. Of course, that is crucial. Here are the South Region odds in Atlanta. Auburn, Michigan State, Ole Miss, and Michigan. The Tigers a 7.5-point favorite against the Wolverines. The Spartans just a 3.5-point favorite against the Red Rebs. Auburn now back to a minus money favorite to win the South Regional crown and head to the Final Four. Does it feel fitting to you, DRS?
It does feel fitting that they're the favorite, but also look at those 4 teams and honestly say any one of those teams can win a basketball game. I wouldn't be shocked if Michigan actually comes out playing the type of basketball they are. Ole Miss looks absolutely fantastic. Michigan State wins ugly at this point. So Auburn, yes, the most talented and the best team, but I don't look at them as insurmountable where they can't just print their ticket easily into the Final Four.
I think it's going to be a great weekend in the A. Now we head to the Midwest region next. Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
They are a street ball team. They remind me of an N1 team, right?
Yeah.
They are street ball fast, park fast, playing in the hood. They are no joke, McNeese.
Yeah.
They can beat anybody.
Well,
they won 27 games as well for a reason.
It's a bracket. You trust the team to make a run. Feels good until it doesn't. And that's didn't feel good for all that long. Kansas.
Only on SportsGrid. That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes a basketball expert. Highlight watching, mascot picking, bracket stressing. Sound familiar? Skip the guesswork with Bracket Central. Real expert picks, trusted analysis, and zero stress. Because choosing teams by mascot cuteness isn't exactly a winning strategy. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Region by region around the 2025 Big Dance, recapping the entirety of the opening weekend and what we saw in the round of 32 to set the stage for the Sweet 16 bright and early on this Monday morning on the early line on SportsGrid. DRS, our fourth and final region to break down for everybody here. That would be out in the Midwest region, where we had some great matchups this weekend, including on Saturday night. As good of a 1-8 game as you will ever find in the NCAA Tournament. In fact, a couple of great 1-8 games. Florida and the two-time reigning national champs in UConn. Houston and a team on the 8 line that had absolutely no business being there in Gonzaga. The Cougs of Houston in control through most of the opening half and early into the second. And then the Zags started to make their rally, which made it very interesting down that home stretch. But Houston does prevail, reaching the Sweet 16 for a 6th consecutive time, snapping what was the longest active streak entering this tournament, Gonzaga's 9-tournament streak of getting to the Sweet 16 in a row. They literally take the mantle from the Bulldogs, that being Houston, 81-76, depending on where you got that number. Opened at 4.5, closed at 5.5. Very, very important for a thriller on Saturday night between the Cougs and the Zags.
Yeah, one of those games where I got right on Saturday by getting in right at the right time at -4.5, because I didn't get to watch that game all the way through, but woke up to see that final score and loved it. And then I realized, wait a second, it's like a 1-point game with 20 seconds left, and I got the cover. That's a win for the good guys making your free throws down the stretch, which included only a couple ticks left on the clock. Some people look at this game and say, oh, look at Houston struggling there with, an 8-seed overall Gonzaga. I don't look at it like that. I need to see the Houston Cougars win high-tempo games, 81-76. I like when Houston wins lower-tempo games. And what that means is this team can win any which way possible, which you love to see. And if that means making your three-point shots when they're there, 8 of 16 from the three-point line, which was 50% from the field, 75% from the free throw line, and close to 47% as a team from the field. I love this Houston team. They can win any which way. Great head coach. Looking forward to their next game.
At DRS, it was a very Houston game to start. Pre-game total of 141.5. Gonzaga used to playing against teams that are efficient but slow. See St. Mary's in the WCC. But that felt like a very important number. If it stayed well under, all benefiting the team from H-Town. If it reached over and the scoring and production was up, probably back in the Bulldogs. Well, in the first half, Houston led 35-27 at the break, only to see 95 combined points in the second. And yet, Houston still able to come out on top, led by a career-best 30 points from L.J. Cryer. I love this Houston team as well, and I love that I got in early on a 4.5-point spread, so we had a cover with the Houston Cougars as well. On to the Sweet 16 for a 6th consecutive Big Dance. Kelvin Sampson has reinvigorated this program in Houston. Bottom portion of the Midwest region, Tennessee and UCLA, in a game between two very similar styles. Both very sound defensively, both not exactly the fastest teams you will ever play. And Tennessee wins that slugfest 67-58, staying under a number of 131.5. And the Volunteers do cover as a pregame 5.5-point favorite, winning by 9. Tennessee onto the Sweet 16 once again under Rick Barnes.
Yeah, they would love the fact that they play a team like UCLA on each and every night, because you can say, okay, we'll go match you up for defense. We just need to make a couple shots and we'll beat you. And quite frankly, Tennessee was really good from the three-point line, 11 of 22, which is 50% from the field, and maximizing their free throws, making 14 of 16 attempts. But Tennessee understands this. It is a shot-making game. They need to continue to make those shots, something that St. John's wasn't able to do and play great defense. Tennessee was able to do against UCLA. I'm interested to see how they do in their next game here. But no shame in UCLA's game, getting knocked out by Tennessee, a quality opponent from the SEC. They were just a better team on that night, and we got exactly what we thought would happen. A defensive effort, and Tennessee came out on top.
And a really great three-point shooting night for the Vols as well. 50% as a team, 11 of 22, led by Chaz Lanier, their top scorer. 4 of 5 from deep, 20 points for the North Florida transfer. Jordan Gainey made 3 triples off the bench as well. Rick Barnes takes a lot of flack, correctly so, in my opinion, when you have been to the big dance 29 times and only have one Final Four to show for it. But Tennessee has at least reached the Sweet 16 3 consecutive years, looking to get even deeper into the tournament. They will be favored in their next game coming up against a team that they know very well from the SEC. That is Kentucky. Yesterday, the only game we saw in the Midwest portion of the bracket, the 3-6 split, Kentucky and Illinois. Pre-game total DRS of 167.5 for 2 really elite offenses, 2 very fast tempos, and neither really sound on the defensive end of the floor. Kentucky having a better day, 84-75. The Cats win outright as a 2.5-point underdog, knocking off the Illini. Kentucky, in year number 1 under Mark Pope, advancing to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, how about Cal and Pope getting to the Sweet 16? Pretty
Yeah.
crazy stuff there from coaches who now coach there, from former coaches. But let's focus on the Kentucky Wildcats, who are the better team. Why? Because they won the basketball game 84-75. But also understand this, too. Like the Fighting Illini had so much talent all throughout the season. You question them a little bit how they're going to step up in the big games and neutral court sites like the game against Duke in Madison Square Garden that didn't show up, which really was a catalyst toward the second half of their season and into the NCAA tournament. But Kentucky was just better. And sometimes look at styles make fights. We expected to get a lot of points. Technically, we did, but just not over the exorbitant number that the odds maker has set. And also understand this. Owe was my target yesterday, over 18.5 points. You see, he finished with 15. Oh, just missed. Foul trouble in the first half, buried him. Only had 2 points at the break, which then again shows you Kentucky still had the lead without their best player in the lineup and then finished them off in the second half. Winning without your best players and not bringing your A game technically and still advancing, that shows a lot here. Kentucky's a fun team full of shot makers, and without their best player, still prevailed in the first half.
23 points out of Kobe Brea. He only made 3 threes. Kentucky only 8 of 21 last night from deep and still winning comfortably outright as a 2.5-point dog. Why? The turnover battle was key last night, DRS. Kasparas Jakučionis, the Lithuanian freshman point guard for the Illini, costly with the ball early. Illinois had 14 total turnovers to only 5 for Kentucky. The Illini reached the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2005 last year, all the way to the Elite 8, now out after the end of the opening weekend already. Kentucky and Tennessee, the SEC theme into the second weekend. We'll talk more about it next.
That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes a basketball expert. Highlight watching, mascot picking, bracket stressing. Sound familiar? Skip the guesswork with Bracket Central. Real expert picks, trusted analysis, and zero stress. Because choosing teams by mascot cuteness isn't exactly a winning strategy. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here, continuing our recap around the opening weekend of the 2025 Men's NCAA Tournament. The final few games in the stories you need to know from the Midwest region to set the entire stage. Moving on to weekend number 2. We'll talk some national championship odds a little bit later as well. DRS, as we were breaking down, Kentucky, the better offense yesterday against Illinois. They didn't turn the basketball over. Only 5, leading to more possessions, and the Cats take advantage. 84-75 against the Illini, winning outright as a 2.5-point dog. So it will be Kentucky and Tennessee, SEC foes in the Sweet 16. By the way, the Cats winning both of the regular season matchups against the Volunteers, both in Rupp Arena and on Rocky Top in Knoxville. Both of those outright for Kentucky as an underdog. Our first game of the round of 32 on Saturday afternoon ended the March Magic for McNeese. It was Purdue, and really Purdue all 40 minutes long. DRS, a game that we broke down early on Friday, taking that early look at the early lines for the rest of the weekend. You were saying you loved Purdue minus 5.5. They closed as a 6.5-point favorite, and that was the way it went. The Boilermakers in control the entirety of it, winning 76-62, handing McNeese a loss, the end of an era in Lake Charles for Will Wade, officially now signing the contract as NC State's new head coach. The Boilermakers onto the Sweet 16 for a 6th time in the last 8 seasons.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible, too, because Purdue is ultra efficient. You figured they wouldn't turn the basketball over. They actually had 19 turnovers in that game and still won it going away with ease. Who knows if they didn't turn the basketball over, how much more of a margin that would have been on the 76-62. I did get caught up a little bit on a parlay where I needed Braden Smith, along with Purdue, to win the game to make 3 3-point shots, drops 2 in the first 9 minutes of the first half. I don't even think he scored the rest of the way. But again, you're not playing your best basketball and easily dispatching of opponents. The one question mark we had, too, is we knew McNeese was going to be athletic and try to play great defense, but the offense might be lacking. 5 of 13 from the free throw line, only 38%, 33% from the three-point line, and 46% total as a team at that point. Usually when you win the turnover margin by that much, you keep yourself in the ball game like they played against Clemson. But Purdue, my handicap in this was an efficient offense going up against an inefficient team in McNeese State. Eventually the cream would rise to the top, and it did in that game, 38-20 at the break. It was over immediately.
DRS, you could argue Purdue's 2 best defensive performances this year have been so far in the big dance. They held a potent high-point team to only 63 points, season low for the Panthers in the opener. McNeese does struggle offensively, but really shut down the Cowboys to only 62 points in the second round. Both games under for the Boilermakers. Trey Kaufman-Renn has been elite so far in the big dance, 21-8 in the opener against High Point, 22-15 on Saturday afternoon against McNeese. So Will Wade and Amir Orakan on to NC State. Purdue on to the Sweet 16. Here is how things look in the Midwest region as we advance to the second weekend. Donnie, Midwest regional action will be housed inside Lucas Oil Stadium in your favorite United States city, that being Indianapolis. There is going to be a lot of black and gold for that matchup on Friday evening, despite Houston being the 1 seed in the Midwest because they take on Purdue. Now, the Cougs still a favorite, 7.5 points. They are the better team, but I wonder what that atmosphere and environment looks like against Houston on Friday.
Yeah, playing in an aircraft carrier at this point here, where it's like, hey, look at all this space in here. And again, might catch up to you in game number 1. Maybe they feel it out a little bit better in the Elite 8 round. But you're also looking at Houston as a heavy favorite across the board, open up at 7.5 here at FanDuel in New Jersey. Still sitting 7.5 here, but 8s are starting to show on the board. And a low total, which is typical for Houston games, that opened at 131.5, has actually improved now to 132.5. And some outlets even moving to 133. Should be a great matchup overall. Will that strength of Houston and their ability to impose their will focus on Purdue, because the one thing we saw we didn't like from Purdue, as we just said, too many turnovers. They got to get that handled. They turn it over that many times against Houston, they ain't beating them. No shot.
Braden Smith had more turnovers, 8, than he did assists on Saturday, just 5.
Yeah.
That is very uncharacteristic for one of the best point guards in the country and the Big Ten Player of the Year in Braden Smith. I bet this game as soon as I saw it on Saturday, Donnie. I just really love the Cougs, and I love Purdue too, but I think Houston is that elite team that does have a distinction. 6.5-point spread then, now 7.5, minus 120 if you want to back Houston on the FanDuel Sportsbook. 4.5-point number in favor of Tennessee against Kentucky. Hard to beat a team 3 times, DRS. The Vols have lost twice so far this year to the Cats. Houston, as you saw, minus 115 to win the Midwest region and advance to a Final Four. Plenty more on TEL up next.
Which is a great place to be. Are you in the locker room, like you giving like the Any Given Sunday Inches Al Pacino speech? Are we there yet?
Oh yeah, I think we've been there. We're gonna have a long talk with Rob today about the 99, 199 issue from last week. Like I just don't get how he is still employed. We gotta talk to ownership about that one.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
They are a street ball team. They remind me of an and one team, right?
Yeah.
They are street ball fast, park fast, playing in the hood. They are no joke, McNeese.
Yeah.
They can beat anybody. They won 27 games as well for a reason.
It's a bracket. You trust the team to make a run. Feels good until it doesn't. And that's didn't feel good for all that long with Kansas.
Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of thoughts.
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes a basketball expert. Highlight watching, mascot picking, bracket stressing. Sound familiar? Skip the guesswork with Bracket Central. Real expert picks, trusted analysis, and zero stress. Because choosing teams by mascot cuteness isn't exactly a winning strategy. Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. We have wrapped up the entirety of the opening weekend of the 2025 Big Dance. We'll get back into tourney talk to start off our third and final hour. But DRS, of course, the rest of the weekend, there was plenty of big news. Let's hit on the National Football League and some of the updates that we did see. Is this the end of the Giants quarterback questions this offseason? Has New York figured out their bridge gap at the QB spot for the 2025 campaign? We shall see. But with the acquisition over the weekend of Jameis Winston, at least there is a quarterback in-house that the Giants maybe can rely on. 2-year, $8 million deal could be worth up to $16 million in terms of incentives. After a year in Cleveland where Jameis actually started plenty more games than we probably thought, entering 2024, he is now at least probably the starter for the New York Giants entering 2025. Again, the G-Men still hold the third overall pick. We'll see how the quarterback draft class does shake out, DRS, in just over a month in that opening round. But right now, it's the Jameis Winston show for the G-Men.
Yeah, you couldn't just have a Tommy DeVito run wild in there as the only quarterback and maybe draft one here. You got to get somebody that's been around the block and had some success in the NFL. And I like this move for the Giants. I also like this for betting purposes. There's no better quarterback in the NFL if you like totals than Jameis Winston. Big play, touchdown, touchdown the other way with a pick six. It'll be fun to watch to see how the Giants do. And also, if Jameis does turn out to be their starting quarterback this year, he doesn't add any more wins than you normally would get just under a serviceable player. And that's exactly what you're looking for the Giants. It's not about wins this year. Don't care if you're a fan of the Giants. It's not about winning. If you do get your quarterback in the draft, let's just say you stay at 3 and Shedeur Sanders is there. That's the guy you always wanted. Fantastic. You have Jameis Winston there. Maybe Jameis starts a game or two, but he still is a live arm that you can bring off of the bench. So I like where the Giants are going. Aaron Rodgers was the absolute worst case scenario for the Giants as an organization and their fan base, because he would have won 1 or 2 more football games. You never would have got your starting quarterback, and away you go. So at least at this point, Jameis is not going to add a single win, but will add some fun for the Giants, and at least he can run the offense.
And, Donnie, you mentioned Giants fans. I don't even think they want wins if they are truly understanding of the context of their franchise entering 2025. 200-1 number for New York. Longest price there is to win Super Bowl 60. The worst outlook for any team entering 2025. They have the worst price to win any of our 8 divisions around the NFL, 36-1 in the NFC East. I would say right now, DRS projected win total for New York, probably somewhere around 4.5, maybe some over juice, or 5.5, maybe some juice on the under. So that's fine. That's well and good. I think Giants fans and media members alike are understanding that, hey, it's not an overly optimistic outlook this year. We'll lose. We'll get a good draft pick for 2026. We'll be in the Arch Manning sweepstakes. We can build it up once again. And more than likely, we'll do so with a new head coach and a new GM. But the guys currently in place, DRS, probably do not have that same sentiment. Brian Daboll, head coach, Joe Schoen, GM, understanding they will not be afforded the opportunity to have a 4-13 season and be there for the rebuild in 2026. So Jameis Winston brought in as the starter for right now. What do you think Daboll and Schoen are thinking the rest of this offseason to try to win as many games as possible in 2025 and perhaps save their jobs?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this might signal a move to they're moving towards the draft to get their quarterback, because there's 2 ways that you can save your job. And if you convince an owner as bad as John Mara to come back, which they did, you can say, you know what, watch us buy another year. If we get Shedeur and we win 4 games or 5 games, I can say, well, we're the person that's going to surround them with talent, even though I haven't done that yet at my job over the past 5 years, and maybe the owner will buy into it. More wins or a young quarterback of the future is typically the way to go. I don't think it's going to be Jameis Winston, don't draft your quarterback this year, win 5 games, then sell ownership on, now I can draft my quarterback. That's not going to work. So they are a little bit in self-preservation mode. It almost feels like self-preservation mode for the owner himself, because he's been so embarrassed by the seasons and embarrassed at his off seasons that are on camera, that now nobody wants to be on camera in the off season because the Giants proved how inept some of these organizations actually are. I like the move. I like what the Giants are doing. It'll tell me more in the draft. If they draft their future quarterback, that's a really good offseason for the Giants, because then you'll be bad, you'll have your quarterback, and then still be high up in the draft next year as well. So I like what the Giants are doing.
And, Donnie, we slammed the Giants at the end of last season. Week 17, touchdown underdog at home against a Colts team that needed a win to have any chance of staying in the playoff race. And what it would cost New York from having that number 1 overall pick to dictate the entirety of this offseason in the draft process around the NFL. Well, the Giants are still drafting 3rd overall. Again, Cam Ward, a hefty favorite at minus 750 to be that 1st overall pick. More than likely, Tennessee will be the team to make that 1st overall selection. We thought the Browns would be in desperate need of a quarterback as well. It's not really seeming to trend that way at number 2 overall. When we finally have the odds out, we'll talk about those in just a second. So can the Giants remain at 3 and still draft the guy that everybody thought they were going to get in Shedeur Sanders? We shall see. Very interesting for what that would mean for New York, if he would be the answer at the quarterback spot, because if you take him, then you're not really in the Arch Manning sweepstakes, but you could still end up with a high draft pick. Would that save Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen? Probably not, even if Shedeur Sanders is there and they go 5-12 or 4-13. I find it very interesting, DRS, from the fandom perspective versus the in-house, in-franchise perspective. I do not think they are correlated or on the same page. So Aaron Rodgers, now more than likely not going to be the starting quarterback for the G-Men. Good news for New York. Maybe bad news for Pittsburgh. He spent about 6 hours at the facility in the Steel City on Friday, meeting with the Steelers brass, meeting with the organization. It was said to be a positive visit, and yet no contract was offered. Nothing was signed. Donnie, is it only a matter of time before Aaron Rodgers becomes Pittsburgh's QB? What's the holdup?
I think so. But, yeah, there shouldn't be any holdup at this point. It should be Aaron Rodgers like, oh, my God, I might not be a quarterback next year. Please, somebody show me the effort and sign me. Not, let me fly in there. Let me waste 6 or 8 hours of your time. I've been in the NFL for like 20 years. Like, you don't know about me. I haven't heard about me. I haven't met me anywhere at any banquets or golfed with me in the offseason or done any of that. So the fact is, like, well, we're not close at this point now. If I'm the Steelers, I'm worried about that. Like, what is it? Is he just looking to get more money out of the Steelers? Is he looking to win? He's looking to catapult? Because I've said this multiple times with Aaron. He should be under the premise by going, sign me to a vet minimum. If we slay it in the first 8 weeks, I want my money. If I suck, just cut me. I will retire. What's the wait up here? What's the hang up? And why would the Steelers wait around for Aaron Rodgers as if he's going to be the ultimate key where they win a Super Bowl? They should be on the offensive going like, Aaron, take it or leave it. You got a Monday deadline at noon. You don't want it. We don't want you. See it. It doesn't feel like that, though.
Did you just say slay? Is your daughter's lingo rubbing off on you? If Aaron Rodgers slays it?
Steelers. Yeah.
All right, man. I love that for you. Oh, Darius Slay. Good point. Big play Slay there for Pittsburgh as well. But, Donnie, that's my point. I wonder who is causing the holdup. Is it Aaron Rodgers being the drama that he is, despite never claiming that he is a dramatic figure? I'll wait. What's the contract? I'm not in any real hurry. I could still head into the darkness and into the wilderness to have an offseason by myself. Is it Pittsburgh being like, hey, buddy, good meeting you finally in person here at the facility, but we're still not sure if you have it at the age of 41. I could understand maybe a couple of weeks ago if the Vikings were truly interested, what the Giants' plans were, maybe the Cleveland Browns even. But most of the quarterback market has kind of been reshuffled and figured out where Aaron Rodgers is that main guy. Is it money? Is it timing? Again, I don't think it's worth it, Donnie. I agree with you. If you are the franchise, if you are Pittsburgh, here's your deal, buddy. Vet minimum. You want it? Great. You don't? Fine. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be in Pittsburgh. He was going to wait months on Minnesota, probably till the summer, to wait for practices to see if J.J. McCarthy was good enough here. And yet the Steelers like, please come here. He's like, I'll meet with you, but, I don't really know about it. Yeah, this is going to work out really well for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, probably so. Number 2 overall picks next.
That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes a basketball expert. Highlight watching, mascot picking, bracket stressing. Sound familiar? Skip the guesswork with Bracket Central. Real expert picks, trusted analysis, and zero stress. Because choosing teams by mascot cuteness isn't exactly a winning strategy. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what?
circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. So it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Finally, deep into this draft process around the National Football League, we finally have some odds for the number 2 overall pick. For most of this offseason, we have had the odds for number 1 overall even after the Combine in Indianapolis at the end of February or very early in this month. In the month of March, we had first player to be drafted at this position. But Donnie, often in the draft process by this stage, about a month out from the first round, you'll have pick odds out for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th overall. Finally, the draft odds for number 2 overall are available. It should be shared. Of course, this all correlated to what Tennessee does at the top of the draft. There was some conversation that Mike Borgonzi, new Titans GM, could deal away the pick. They were all listening up to offers. Right now, it feels as though Tennessee will stay at number 1 overall, and Cam Ward is a hefty favorite at minus 750 to go first overall, which then leads to Cleveland on the clock at number 2. Of course, we could see trades. We have not yet. That a unique thing around the NFL draft order in 2025. But DRS, Abdul Carter, the outstanding game wrecker and edge rusher out of Penn State, is the minus money favorite to be that 2nd overall selection at minus 120. Then the quarterback in Shedeur Sanders at plus 145. So, Donnie, do you think this is what the Cleveland Browns draft board looks like for Cleveland? Abdul Carter in front of any QB option.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best overall player in the draft. You might get him at 2. And I thought it would have been perfect if you traded Myles Garrett out of Cleveland, picked up 2 first-round picks, and then just spent one of your first-round picks that you already had on Abdul Carter. That would have made some sense for me. Now, getting him and not having your quarterback, that's something to delay. But sometimes a player is so talented, no matter if you already have an embarrassment of riches at defensive end, which you do in Myles Garrett and spend a lot of money on him, you usually can't pass that up unless you're completely sold. Now, the interest would have been if, let's just say, Cleveland was number 1 overall and said, we're just a few years away from a quarterback, let's go 1. But 2, Cam Ward's going to be off the board. So then do you take Shedeur Sanders if you're not sold on him as your quarterback of the future? Or do you just take the surefire thing for the next decade that is going to be absolutely cracking quarterbacks, and that's Abdul Carter? I don't mind that he's the number 2 overall pick and the favorite at minus 120. And even if the Browns stayed in that spot and drafted Abdul Carter, you're going to have a hard time with me saying, like, all right, well, you passed up on your quarterback of the future, which could have been Shedeur Sanders, but Shedeur Sanders is getting a lot of love, top of the draft. Some people think he can slip at this point. There's nobody looking at Abdul Carter going number 2. I'm like, I don't know if that was the right pick. That's the right pick for anybody in that spot, as long as Cam Ward is off the board right there and you're unsold on the quarterback position on the way out.
But don't you think, DRS, that would be an interesting decision by the Browns that you just paid Myles Garrett $40 million and you are in desperate need of a QB, and then you go and get another edge rusher, which is not the area of weakness for the Cleveland Browns, basically being like, we are going to try to win games with 8 sacks, which will be more than points we have on the board, and win 7-3. That's why I'm not entirely sure what the Browns would be doing if they hold on to that 2nd overall pick and having Abdul Carter as the favorite, which is why I don't trust in anything Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, or Jimmy Haslam, the ownership group for Cleveland, has done this offseason. Again, it doesn't make sense. It makes sense that Abdul Carter would go 2nd overall, and of course that is always the distinction and the caveat for Abdul Carter, and you to cash that ticket at minus 120 for that 2nd overall pick price does not mean the Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter 2nd overall.
No, and you hit the nail on the head with this. Cleveland is a horrible organization, one of the worst-run franchises in the history of professional sports. Look at what they've done since they got back to Cleveland. Absolutely nothing but just about embarrass themselves on a week-to-week, year-to-year basis. So we laid it out, and I've had this strategy all the way through. Myles Garrett will get you 2 first-rounders, regardless of how much money the new team is going to pay him. Cleveland is not ready to win now. So you'd have 2 first-round picks and still the number 2 overall pick, which you said, you know what? We're probably going to be bad, but I got to get a generational talent at defensive end to replace the generational talent that I did. Didn't have to pay him $40+ million a year. And on top of that, going to have him on a rookie salary for the next 5 years. So by the time we are ready to actually compete in 3 to 4 years, we can afford everybody, rookie salaries, and let's get after it here. But we are talking about the Browns at this instance right now. You're supposed to take a quarterback when you're this bad at the top of the draft if you're sold on those quarterbacks. I'm completely sold on Cam Ward. I do think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a good quarterback, but understand this too. Like, to be a really good quarterback, you have to go to the right situations. Correct me if I'm wrong. When's the last time Cleveland has drafted a quarterback or had a quarterback that they groomed into a fantastic quarterback? What, Bernie Kosar 30+ years ago, 40 years ago at this point right now? So it's not as if Shedeur is like, hey, man, it'd be so great to go to Cleveland. Why? You'll probably end up in the scrap heap just like every other Cleveland quarterback that's ever been there. And case in point, they drafted Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall, who should still be on the roster and they would have any quarterback issues and probably making playoff runs. But they were so inept to understand what talent they actually had in the building, they sold him out just to get Deshaun Watson, who in turn destroyed their franchise. So whatever Cleveland does is probably going to be scrutinizing questions as, ooh, was that the right move? Even if it probably was the right move at the time.
And you would think now, having paid Myles Garrett, that you want to build up a roster around him that can maybe even compete for 7 wins, let alone a playoff spot, let alone a Super Bowl championship. Abdul Carter would help, of course, and be a benefit. But if Cleveland was smart, they probably would have traded Myles Garrett for additional draft picks, and they probably would have traded out of the 2nd overall pick for even more draft capital as well. Shedeur Sanders would make a ton of sense for a franchise in desperate need of quarterback play. And the plus 145 price is enticing. Now, although we haven't heard this from Sanders, either Shedeur or Dion so far in this draft cycle, of course, there were conversations last offseason that Dion was going to be very selective on where his son ended up. I don't think the situation in Cleveland would be one they would hand pick, and it doesn't seem to be the likely landing spot at this moment, which of course presents a golden opportunity for the New York Giants at 3rd overall. DRS, it also should be noted, we're a month away from the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. Thursday, April 24th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Every single team, all 32 in the National Football League, still holds their first overall pick. That is the first time since the merger in 1970 this has occurred. If every team makes a selection in the first round, all 32, it would be the first time since we had 32 NFL organizations dating back to 2002. That would be the case as well. It is an unusually quiet NFL draft process so far. NBA odds? Sure, next.
That magical time of the year when everyone suddenly becomes a basketball expert. Highlight watching, mascot picking, bracket stressing. Sound familiar? Skip the guesswork with Bracket Central. Real expert picks, trusted analysis, and zero stress. Because choosing teams by mascot cuteness isn't exactly a winning strategy. Only on SportsGrid.
two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's made every match so much more enjoyable to watch because you don't get the stinkers, right?
Right. It goes back to these guys being smart. They figured out that if I've got the hammer in my back pocket and I don't relinquish it, we can just play them straight up and win. They figured that out. And so it's like, all right, now credit to the people at TGL. Like, no, we need to fix this because the hammer can change the match. And since we fixed it, you're not out of it.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Rounding out our second hour together, live right here on this Monday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. Maybe you forgot the NBA regular season is coming to a close as well. Yesterday, 3 weeks from yesterday, the end of the regular season. So we are trying to figure out the playoff picture around the association. One big thing did happen over the weekend, DRS, as OKC rides yet another lengthy win streak. They have won 6 in a row. They have officially clinched the number 1 overall spot in the Western Conference. 13.5 game lead over the Houston Rockets. 14.5 in front of the Denver Nuggets. So OKC, with only 11 games remaining in their NBA regular season, they have played 71 games. They are 59-12. The Thunder have clinched the top spot in the Western Conference, which is what we realized would only be a matter of time for really a good majority of this season, especially in the calendar year 2025.
Yeah, and by the way, we all have played Madden in the past. You build a team, you play on a franchise mode at that point. Can we do this in the NBA? Can we just simulate the final 11, 12 games of the season and get to the playoffs? It's amazing because, we do have an NBA segment here. I'm half-hearted to ask, what actually happened over the past 4 to 5 days? And quite frankly, I'm not the only sports fan doing that, trying to get caught up into the NBA and say, where's the excitement? Everybody is tanking. There's a couple good teams. Can we just get to the playoffs at this point is what we're waiting for. I watch the Sixers on a day-to-day basis with only hopes that they get hammered on a night-to-night basis, which they got hammered again last night from the Atlanta Hawks. Can the Cavaliers rebound off a couple games they lost the past couple weeks? Are the Celtics just going to be waiting and getting healthy now that you just said OKC clinched the number 1 overall seed? What's left to watch over the final 12 games? Almost absolutely nothing. Just get me to the playoffs.
DRS, I would say that is it, right? The race is for the top spot, but OKC has clinched that. We have a lot of postseason seeding in the Western Conference to figure out. Houston in the 2 spot right now, a game in front of Denver. In the 3 spot, the Nuggets a game in front of the Lakers for that 4 spot. Trying to figure out what home floor advantage is going to look like in the opening round of the Western Conference postseason. And things getting just a little bit interesting atop the Eastern Conference. We knew it was going to take something monumental for the Cavaliers to cough up that number 1 overall seed out east. Well, after 16 consecutive wins, 4 straight L's for the Cavaliers that was ended last night. A 29-point win over Utah and a cover as a 16.5-point favorite to snap that short 4-game slide. But we had not seen Cleveland lose more than 3 games in a row all year long. Boston has won 5 straight. The reigning NBA champs have closed the gap to only 5 games for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. Again, Cleveland struggling based on relative expectation right now, but the Cavs are still 57-14. They have that 5-game lead with only 11 games left. It would take another lengthy Cleveland losing streak and the Boston Celtics basically winning out, or at least 9 or 10 of their final 11 games, to catch the Cavaliers.
Yeah, and the Celtics favored tonight on a back-to-back against the Sacramento Kings, so a tough game for them. We don't anticipate them jumping over Cleveland, so you're really not jockeying for position anymore per se. Now, of course, some seeds are still going to be up in the air, and we understand that, but you're really saying, all right, it's time to get in the playoff mode. Let's make sure everybody is healthy by the time the start of the playoffs come around, and then we'll go from there in the new NBA season. So a lot of wasted time we're going to watch over the next 2 to 3 weeks at this point until the playoffs actually start in the NBA, but we'll watch it, we'll break it down, and we'll handicap it as well.
39-16, that was the Celtics record at the All-Star break since they are 13-3. Again, Boston looking like a championship caliber team, but we have talked often about the race for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. Elsewhere, most of the East is basically figured out. Indiana, Milwaukee, and Detroit 4 through 6, separated by just 2 games. But there's a big lead for the Pistons, 4.5 over the Hawks for the 6-7 split in the Eastern Conference. Golden State and Minnesota, only a half game difference between the Dubs and the T-Wolves for that 6-7 split, staying out of the play-in tournament and into the original playoffs right away. DRS, let's look at those NBA championship odds. We noted this last week. For the first time all year, the reigning champs were no longer booked as the NBA title frontrunners. It was Oklahoma City. That gap widening just a little bit, plus 170 in front of Boston at plus 195. But really, it's still the same story. A tier of 3 at the top and really a tier of 2 between the Thunder and the Celtics.
Yeah, just depending on how the Cavaliers end the season. Can they still stay in that one spot here? Are they going to collapse? We don't think that's going to be the case. So not a lot of changes ending into the playoffs, but I do agree the Celtics never should have been the favorite based on the way it's going to play out with home seeding. So there we go. FanDuel's got it right.
And it's important as well because OKC now a better record by 2 games from Cleveland. That would be home floor advantage in the NBA Finals. Hour 3 next.